I'd come to discuss the evolution of the Parliament of Uganda. I didn't know that I'm required to justify my candidature, something I've been doing for the last 3 months. I am coming like light, and there is darkness in Parliament. So you are asking the light, why are you coming in the darkness? Isn't the answer obvious?
So what is the light offering, minus just light?
I've been speaking about it a great deal, but first of all, let me tell you of my thinking. You know, we are operating an alien system. Here with us, we have people who are very highly educated in some of the best schools. This Ugandan state is, you know, grafted, and it actually has no roots in our history, because it is a result of a colonial project. I think we must first deal with that reality. So, if we are serious about building Uganda, we must start by understanding what Uganda is. We call ourselves here now a panel, but we all have our tribes where we come from. The British came and declared all of us to be Ugandans. The old man's people did not fill an application form to become Ugandans. Neither did my people. We just woke up one day and we are being told, from now when you go to school you must sing "Oh Uganda," and you say, what is Uganda? And so every African country, actually every country with a colonial history has to deal with this dilemma of the alien state. And that is why you see we have a lot of ritualism in this parliament and most of the organs. You have even had the president complaining. Point of order, point of information, procedure. If you brought someone from my village who has never attended parliament and they are told that they are trying to find solutions to your problems of malaria and lack of good seeds and fertilizers and market for your good, they'll say, I don't believe you. This group here, are they really going to solve my problem? So we have got that as a serious challenge. The political scientists also have another challenge we are facing, which they call the national question. How to mold or to forge one nation out of very diverse peoples, different cultures, different languages, and different practices. How do we develop the national habits that unify us? That is what we call the national question. It is simplified as building national unity. That's why the Americans have their motto, a pluribus unum, out of many, one. But even them, they finally realized that the concept of a melting pot is not viable. So now they call it a salad bowl, meaning an orange remains an orange, a tomato remains a tomato, a cabbage remains a cabbage, an onion remains an onion, but in the same bowl. That's how you grow to respect one another. And that means we must deal with the question of domination. You know, the challenge is always to deal with domination or hegemony. Now, these are preconditions for the kind of drama we see. Those are, if you have a big wound on your leg, you normally develop a swelling on your upper thigh. It is natural. Now, if you focus all your energy on that swelling without treating the wound, you will never actually deal with that swelling. Every community has a name for it. Among the Baganda, that swelling is called Nsanjabavu. And in our place, we call it Awang March. So, I hear all these debates. I expect the old man of the clan, Andrew Mwenda, to first talk about the character of the Ugandan state. What do you expect? What sort of parliament can the Ugandan state produce? This is what I expected you to talk about. That you have a Ugandan state which is struggling to get us out of this past. I loved this topic. That's why I came. And I thought we are going to talk about how we have evolved up to today, how we have been dealing with these challenges. So I believe that a speaker personifies the parliament. Eventually, the character of the speaker defines the character
of the parliament.
Ultimately, because you are the leader. If the speaker does not respect rules, then the parliamentarians will also not respect rules, and we have seen that kind of occurrence. I wouldn't want to be that kind of speaker who does not respect rules. If the speaker does not become a guide to guide people on both sides, for instance, especially the opposition, which normally sometimes believe that they don't have space. I'm the type of person who would believe that we have to throw a challenge to the opposition and tell them on some days during a session, you are going to determine what business will be discussed. You will no longer have the excuse to hide and say we are oppressed because we are few. We say bring it on. What do you want to discuss? Because you also represent a section of the society. We can't dismiss you. You were voted by Ugandans unless we are going to have two countries. But if we have one country and we have that spectrum in a plural parliament, you must give them that chance. Even the people must be given a chance. There must be days during a session when the people should come and also determine the agenda. And then, of course, the government should be held to account through these question time. The question time for the Prime Minister should stop being an empty ritual. In Kenya, one time I witnessed some comedy. A member stood up and asked, is the minister, they were asking some minister, is the minister aware that bridge XYZ has collapsed? And if so, what is government planning to do about it? So the minister stood up and said, I am not aware that that bridge is collapsed. Therefore, the second question does not arise, and he sat down. Now, those are empty rituals. I would also expect that the business of parliament should be determined at the beginning of the session so that the business is predictable. That would eliminate ad hocism and managing parliament by improvisation. I believe that when the speaker is a true guide and a leader, but more importantly, a teacher. But you can only teach what you know. If you are not knowledgeable, what do you have to teach? We are what we are because we were taught. Those who were speakers those days were teachers. We had Francis Ayume. He was a lecturer, he was an author. We had Wapakabulo. He was a seasoned leader. He was a guide and a teacher. They were knowledgeable. Speaker Sekandi. So, when we now started improvising, that is why the business of Parliament became business. and these are just symptomatic. So we cannot discuss Parliament without discussing the character of the state in which this Parliament exists. And that's why you're asking these hard questions about how do we deal with these problems. So my candidature is not just about a position. In fact, no one should envy whoever is going to be the speaker, even if it were me. Don't envy me, because the work is going to be very, very difficult. These vices we are talking about are deeply rooted, and over the last few months, my job has simply been to shake that chair until something happened. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I just kept shaking it while being dismissed, while being told that I'm not a threat, while being jeered at, while being offered inducements to stop shaking because it was becoming disruptive. So I just stubbornly continued shaking and shaking. Then something happened. And I think Andrew Mwenda's article should be a weekend in May. Because you remember the story about what happened in Zimbabwe, the exit of Mugabe.
Yes.
Yes, the book is about a few days. Or the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was 13 days.
Yes.
So these things can happen in a very, very short time. So we know that whoever is going to be the speaker, and I believe with all my experience and exposure and backbone, we need a speaker who has a backbone. We don't want an invertebrate. We want a vertebrate to be the one to run Parliament. This is what I bring. But also I bring a clear knowledge. For instance, when I talk about the opposition, we basically agree on most of the things. We want unity, we want peace, we want development, we want democracy. And so Parliament should be more about cooperating to solve the problems of the country, particularly in a backward country like Uganda. We should be spending more time looking for how to work together to solve these problems. Now, if you take pride and you call yourself opposition, and you think your job is to obstruct the government from doing what it was elected to do, the reason why the government is elected is to do the very things they are trying to do through Parliament. Now, if you are simply obstructing it, then your chances of succeeding or overcoming and defeating that government at the next election continues diminishing. You should endear yourself to the people by coming up with better ideas and pointing out better solutions, better ways of doing things. Then eventually the sympathies of the people may shift. But also we must see how to evolve. What we have today did not evolve naturally from historically. It was superimposed. It was imposed by colonial fiat. So we now have to ask ourselves, if we want this healthy competition, then we must look at the way Uganda is. Basically, we have got two big blocks. We have got the NRM block, that's NRM and company. And I consider myself part of the and company. Because we have a clear agreement to work together, a commitment, so we are part of the and company. Then you have the other block, the so-called opposition. I'm hoping that those two blocks can consolidate and they get to trust each other sometime in the future, then you can probably think of a situation like Ghana and Nigeria that emerged from military dictatorships and authoritarianism, such that now the NPP of Ghana does not fear losing to NDC, the party founded by Jerry Rawlings. They have grown to trust each other. So if you have NOPE, if a group can coalesce around NOPE seriously, instead of this shadow boxing that they have been doing, that can become a bloc that can be trusted. And then you have NRM with its historical ally DP and UPC. You know, in the first 5 minutes of the president's speech, he credited UPC and DP for not doing the other thing I said opposition parties should not do. It is not our business to obstruct the NRM from doing what it was elected to do. It is our business to see that we do those things that will make Ugandans develop, overcome poverty, get education, better health services. So the speaker then presides over that house and guides the members to reach agreement. Andrew Mwenda thinks that the real work, because that's the, Andrew Mwenda is apologizing for the lack of intellectual debate and saying it is easier to bribe people, it is easier to threaten them, it's easier to cajole them. But in reality, we should work hard to overcome the need to bribe people that way. I would want the bribe to be like a bridge in somebody's village. That one every country does, even in America. You can say, okay, I'm going to bring a military base to your constituency so that we create jobs. But in a situation where you are just given 10 million shillings and or you go to a meeting of a caucus, but you're basically waiting for the meeting to end so that you get some money, and then a resolution is passed and your name is on it, that you passed it. Then you come to the TV station and then you are roasted and you say, no, I don't support that. Say, but you attended the meeting which resolved that you are in support. Why are you now disowning it? Now that's not the kind of parliament that we should have. That's why under my leadership we'll ensure that voting is electronic and there will be accountability. Every MP will have their name associated with how they voted, whether you supported or you did not support, instead of just yawning.
Thank you. Let me come to Dr. Shabin.
I or no.
Yeah, instead of
that's
yawning.
Very unaccountable.
Dr.